I have had huge renovations going on in my bathroom, and I've been trying to figure out how to make a video about it because I didn't record any of the projects while I was doing them. Also, I have a very sore throat. I don't know why I'm recording this video now of all times when I've been kind of losing my voice in and out the past few days. But here we are. So I recorded a video prior to starting the major renovation projects that I had for the bathroom, and that video was sort of me just showing what the bathroom looked like beforehand and discussing what my plans were for the bathroom. So I'm going to use some of that footage to kind of show what I've done. And the first major thing that I did was painting, which sounds simple, but it was not a simple project in here because I had a lot of prep to do. The process to get to the point of being able to paint is going to be a long and grueling process because, as you can see, there's this tile pattern on the walls, and as far as I can tell based on the research I've done and what it looks like to me, it seems like this is a stamped plaster, which is literally just like, these are just regular plaster walls, and then they use a stamp to imprint, I guess you would say, imprint a texture into the plaster while it's still wet, and it creates this sort of false tile. So this is just plaster walls. What I want ideally is to take the chair rail out, just like completely get rid of that, and then have the whole wall just be normal one texture. It just is seamless is what I want, and then paint all of it the green color that I have picked out. So I ripped that chair railing out, which led to me kind of painting, because after I ripped it out it looked terrible. It needed to be patched, and it immediately caused me to want to paint because I wanted to get that patched and covered up. So what I did is I used spackle for all of my patching. Now, I am still unclear about whether or not spackle was the best choice for the repairs, or if I should have done mudding. I still don't know. I've done a lot of research into the differences between mud and spackle, and at the end of the day, it really seems like it comes down to the fact that spackle dries faster, and that seems to be the main difference. That spackle dries faster, which means it's better for smaller scale projects. So when you're doing a big project, you use mud because it dries slower, so you have time to get the project done and the mud isn't drying while you're in the process of trying to do the project. So mud is normally used, almost specifically it seems like, mud is used for drywalling. And like all the research I've done, it really comes down to, it seems like mud is used for drywalling and spackle is used for basically everything else, is what it seems to come down to. Maybe I'm wrong, but I've done so much research into this because I was so concerned that I wasn't using the right project, or the right product, but that really seems to be the big difference. So I just got a huge tub of spackle because I knew that I would be able to use it on other things, which seems to be the main difference. Spackle can be used for a lot of different repairs, whereas mud is more specific for what you would use it for. So I decided to just get this huge thing of spackle and use this for all of the patching that I wanted to do in the bathroom, because like I said, this is something that I know I can use on other things. Like you can use it to fill in nail holes, like small cracks. Now cracks, you would mostly want to fill those with caulk and then potentially use this to help smooth the wall out after you fill in the crack. But like any kind of stuff like that, like spackle is what you use. So I knew that if I got this huge tub, like even if I didn't use it all in the bathroom, I have plenty of other repairs in other parts of the house that I can use it for. So spackle is what I decided to get. And I use this to fill in all of the damage that was left from taking out the chair railing, which when I say damage, I mean obviously the nail holes that were attaching it to the wall, but also just smoothing out the texture, because obviously the wall around it had been painted before, and so the texture underneath was off. So I used it to even all of that out too. But then I also used this to fill in the faux tile texture. That was the big thing that I was concerned that this was not the right product to do that with, because I was basically just doing a skim coat on the wall, which it specifically says don't use spackle to do skim coats. So I was concerned that like this was not what I should be using to do that, since I was covering so much of the wall to cover up that texture. But I did this project months ago. Like, I can't even remember how long ago I did this, but it was not recently. So I used this to cover up all that tile texture and painted the walls, and I have not had any sort of issue. Like, I don't know what issue I was worried I would have, but there hasn't been any issue with it, so it seems like it worked fine. I am going to be repainting this room because I did all this patchwork and I didn't use any kind of spray-on texture, which is something that you would normally use if you're doing patchwork, because the patching leaves like a smooth space, and it's gonna not match the rest of the texture of the wall. And so basically the whole like bottom like 4 feet of the wall is a smoother texture than the top 2 feet of the wall. So I, after doing this, realized about spray-on wall texture and have since gotten some, so that's what this is. And I'm going to go back and spray the walls with this so I can get an even texture throughout the whole walls, and then I'm going to repaint. So that was just a stupid thing on my part. I don't know why. I thought it would look fine. I was hoping that once I painted it would add that texture to the wall and it would look okay, but there's a very distinct line where the wall was patched and where it wasn't. So I'm just going to be going over everything with this wall texture to even everything back out so you can't tell that a bunch of the wall was patched. And then I'm sticking with the color, the green color that you can see behind me. I'm using the same color, I'm just going to be putting a fresh coat on once I add the texture. So other than that, that was the first major project, which was a huge learning curve as far as like, if you do any kind of research into like drywall mudding, they always say it's a huge learning curve. It's like it's a learned talent to mud drywall. And with what I was doing, I was essentially mudding the walls because I was covering everything. So it was definitely a learning curve. I feel like I did not do enough research before doing it, but I kind of just learned as I did it. And it turned out pretty good. There are some spots that I definitely need to go back over, like small little divots that I didn't quite fill in well enough. But because I was covering so much area, it was hard to tell how even it actually was before I painted. So there are some small spots that I'm not happy with. I'm going to be going back over with the spackle and patching a little bit better. But honestly, other than the texture being off, I'm happy with the way that it turned out, and I like the color in here. It might seem really dark, but you can't see on camera because it's all on the other side. I have a huge double window that is white. My medicine cabinet and vanity, there's the word, are both completely white. You can see like the shower and the door are both white, so it's not actually that dark in here with the color of the walls, which is why I picked a dark color, because I knew there was going to be a lot of contrasting white against it. So happy with the color choice. I think it looks really nice in here and was what I was imagining. So that was project number 1, which I talked about way too long. Project number 2 is a currently ongoing project, because who would I be if I actually fully completed a project before moving on to the next one? This project was painting the window frame and the medicine cabinet. Let's talk about the medicine cabinet, because this was an ordeal, which seems ridiculous. But firstly, there was a little latch on here that I took off because it just really doesn't need a latch closure. It stays closed on its own, so it doesn't need a latch, and it was unnecessary. So I wanted to take that off and replace it with a knob. Currently I just have this little thing on here, which was something that I already had. I'm obviously not going to be keeping that on there. I'm going to get a tiny little knob and stick it right here in the middle where the latch used to be. So that was number 1. You can see all the layers of paint that is on there. It's a lot. I think I counted 5. So on the inside of the cabinet, on camera, you would never know the hour of pain that I suffered trying to fix this the way I wanted it. So the shelves in here, these little shelves are adjustable. You can see that there's holes there on the sides. The brackets for the shelves were stuck in there because they were covered in so many layers of paint. The stupid people that have painted the inside of this cabinet could not be bothered to take the brackets out when they painted it. So instead they would paint around the brackets, and they were then sealed in there. It took way too much time just to get the brackets out of there. And then once I got them out and wanted to move them to different holes, as you can see, the holes that have been painted over are significantly smaller than what the holes are actually supposed to be. So trying to put the brackets into the holes that had been painted over so many times was also an ordeal. I literally had to hammer them in because there was so much paint caked up that they wouldn't fit in the holes anymore. But after a literal hour of messing with this, I finally got the shelves moved. And you might be wondering, why was it such a big deal to move the shelves? I wanted to have a tall shelf in the cabinet to be able to store this stuff. So before, I had to keep this under the sink because it was too tall to fit in here. And also my toothbrush I had to lay down, so it took up an entire shelf just on its own. Now I can stand it up and I have like a whole other shelf that I can use. So that's why I was so determined to move the shelves in here, and didn't realize it was going to be quite the ordeal that it was. But they literally had so much paint caked in here that it took an hour just to move the brackets around. And then you can see the top layer of paint started to peel off. There were so many layers of caked up paint on both the medicine cabinet and the window that it looked awful. Like, there were just so many layers of paint. It was so uneven. Some of it was peeling, some of it was cracking. there were so many holes on the window trim that needed to be patched from old curtains and blinds that had been hung up. So I decided, instead of just putting another layer of paint on an already uneven base, that I was just gonna strip all of the paint off and then, you know, get a nice smooth base and put my white paint on. So yes, I stripped both of them just to paint it the same color that it already was. But it looks so much nicer than it did before, and it's one of those things that like only I'm gonna notice, but hey, I'm happy with it. I know that it looks better than it did. So for that, I had never stripped paint before, ever, and originally I thought that maybe I was gonna try using like vinegar. You can use like a vinegar mixture as a paint stripper, but I decided to just not do that and to just get the right materials, because I've tried doing projects like half-assed with materials that aren't really right for the job, and it's easier to just buy the right thing and do it that way. So I got some paint stripper. This is what I used. This is like a low fume paint stripper, which was my main concern because I have asthma, and chemical smells are like obviously bad for anyone, but chemical smells for me with my asthma, it can be like really bad, like to the point that I feel like I can't breathe at all. Like it can really like trip an asthma attack for me. So that was the main reason I didn't want to use paint stripper in the first place, was because I was really worried about the chemical fumes. But I found this, and it says the first thing on it, no harsh fumes. And I will say that it does have a very strong smell, because obviously there are still chemicals in it, but it's definitely not like bad. And obviously if you're using any kind of chemicals, like you want to make sure your area is well ventilated. So whenever I was using this, I had both of the windows open, but this is what I used. I still have so much of it left. I just realized how little of it I actually used, but I have most of the stripping done. The only stripping that I still need to do is the inside of the medicine cabinet. I kept debating about whether or not I even wanted to bother stripping the inside, but the paint was peeling so bad that I knew if I tried to paint over it, it was just going to end up peeling sometime in the future. So I still need to go over that probably 1 or 2 more times to get the rest of the paint off of the inside of the cabinet. But yeah, this is really simple to use. Like you just brush it on, let it sit, and then scrape it off. And sometimes you have to do multiple passes like I did, because I had to strip like 6 layers of paint off of the window. But usually like the longer you let it sit, the more it seeps in and the more it's going to remove. And along with that, I got, which mine is very dirty, I got this, which is called a painter's tool. This is, I think, the 15-in-1 tool. These are so cheap. I could not believe, like, I've been doing home repairs for a year now and didn't have one of these. This is like a must-have if you're doing home repairs. This thing is fantastic, and I got this for like $8. And the whole point is that it's a multi-tool. So I got it because I needed a paint scraper, and that's what the front end of it is, a paint scraper. And it also has, like, this part is also like a convex scraper. You have this that can clean out paint rollers. You have like, I was gonna say wrench, like bolt, different sizes. You can use like the tip to clean out cracks that need to be filled, because if you have to fill a crack, you have to clean out any loose debris inside of it before you fill it. So that's what the tip is for. The flat end you can use to open up like paint containers. You can use the butt of it as like a hammer, and there's also screw bits in it as well. So this thing is great. I can't believe, like I said, I can't believe I was doing repairs for over a year and didn't have one of these. Like, as cheap as they are, you should definitely get one, because like, you're gonna find use for it. I really wish this would have been so helpful to get back when I moved in. I would have used this so much. I had so many cracks in the house that I had to fill, that I could have used this to clean them out, because a lot of them I just like did my best. I didn't really have anything that could get in there to clean them out super well. So yeah, this is a must-have if you're doing home repairs. Like, and like I said, so cheap. This was $8, like 100% worth it. Like, if you're, all the things that this can do, you would spend way more money to get these tools individually than to just buy one of these. I'm gonna insert like a repair side quest, I guess, which was that I also spray painted the hardware in here, which I think I actually did before I painted, but I've also continued to do recently. So I don't know that you can actually see any of it on camera. I don't know if any of it's in frame, but I think you can see the doorknob that has been freshly spray painted. So all of the metal hardware I have done in gold. So I've actually spray painted all of the knobs and faceplates in the house fresh gold. That's the color that they originally were. They were just super old and rusted and faded and all that kind of stuff. So freshly spray painted all of those. And I also did the towel holders, the toilet paper holder, and more recently I did the hinges on the medicine cabinet. So the medicine cabinet hinges had been painted. So obviously, like, you should never paint metal, kind of like in general. If you don't have the right kind of paint, you shouldn't be painting metal, especially not hinges that need to be able to move. Like, the paint's just gonna crack and fall off. So I removed the hinges, got all the paint off of them, which the technique I've been using for that, if the paint just doesn't chip off, you can just put them in like boiling water and it'll loosen the paint, and then you can get it off that way. That's what I've been doing. And I just used like an old pot that I was already planning on throwing away, and I got new knobs for the cabinet and the medicine cabinet in gold, because the old knobs were silver, and I of course could have just spray painted them, but I wanted to add a knob to the medicine cabinet and I wanted all of the knobs to match, so I just bought new ones, and they're really cute. I don't know, I actually have one of them here. These are the knobs that I got. I only needed 3, so I got ones that were like a little bit nicer with a cute design on them. And they, of course, match all the other gold hardware in here. So yeah, I've been spray painting all the metal hardware gold in the bathroom to go with the green. Really like the way that it looks. Everything else I've been leaving black. So like the clock is black. I have frame posters on the wall that are in black frames. I have some little cube organizers over here that are black, and I think I'm going to leave all that stuff black. I'm only going to do the metal and gold. Another ongoing project is, you might have seen this like weirdness behind me, which is fair. I will now address what is happening. So I imagine I have some footage of this, that there was wood trim on these edges before, so it went the whole way down here, and then it was along here and followed this line, and then there was also pieces up here at the ceiling. Beside the toilet, they have these shelves in here that they have built, and they weren't built very well. I mean, I can go into detail about like how not well they were done. But basically, it's just like the wood is warped, and it looks like it was warped when they built it, not like it's warped over time. Like, it looks like they found scrap wood that wasn't in good condition and used it to build these shelves. And then you can see, so that's a pipe back there that for some reason they didn't hide inside of the wall. It's just there at the back of the shelf. Like, they cut a hole in the wood to be able to run the pipe through, which is so bizarre to me. I don't know why they wouldn't, like, put wood in front of it and hide it inside of the wall. It's really weird. But the other big thing is that because these are so poorly built, I would like to rip this out and redo it. I'm gonna have board, 2 shelves, and then board. So it's going to be mirrored top and bottom. I want to have the measurements matching, that this board is going to be the same as this board, so that the shelves are like directly centered on the wall. And you may be wondering, what would be the purpose of that? So I'm going to have the top shelves open at this end, which I think is going to be more functional, because obviously over here you have the toilet right here, so you don't really have very much wiggle room to be able to like get back here to be able to get to shelves. So I think it makes more sense to have them open at this end. Now obviously the shelves are going to be like super deep and narrow, but my thought is it would be a good place to store towels. So that's the plan. The consistent thing that I have found in this house, anytime I see something that looks out of place, it's because it's covering something up. And that was true also for this. So the trim was covering up unfinished drywall edges. So I had to do a bunch of research about drywalling to figure this out, because I didn't know anything about it. Luckily, if I ever seem educated on anything that I'm talking about, it's YouTube. You can look up anything. Google what you're trying to figure out, and it'll lead you to YouTube videos that'll explain to you what you need to do. So I did a bunch of research about drywalling to understand what I had encountered, and it was that the edges were never properly finished. So instead of finishing the edges when they installed this section of wall, they just put wood trim over it, which is not how you finish drywall edges. So when drywall's put in, they use this metal strips to reinforce the corners. So both like inner corners and outer corners, where walls meet and where the walls meet ceiling. They put these in. Normally you never see them because they're put in when the drywall was put in, and then everything gets mudded over. But when they put in this wall, they never put corner beads in. So I ripped out that wood and I just had raw edges here. I was very confused by what I was looking at, because I also had torn drywall paper, which I'd never seen before, so I was super confused by what was happening. And once I figured out what I needed, I went and got this stuff, which they sell it in these huge things. Like, this is a 100-foot roll. I'm probably never gonna use all of this, but it was $15 for this, which honestly is not that expensive for 100 feet. Like I said, it would have been nice if I could have gotten something smaller, since I only had to do these little section repairs. But for 15 bucks, honestly, I wasn't that bothered by it, and I wanted to get something like this that would be easy to install. Once again, I used spackle for this, which I was concerned about because this is normally installed using mud, but I didn't want to buy mud just to put in these small pieces of bead, so I used the spackle that I showed earlier, and it seemed like it worked fine, I'm hoping that once I haven't completely finished spackling this, so I still need to like sand it and go over it with another coat, sand it again, and then maybe do one more coat if it's still not up to my level of satisfaction. But it seems like I covered it fine. It's definitely stuck to the wall, like it's not coming off. So it seems like it worked fine. So hopefully once I get it fully patched and painted, I don't have any issue with it like coming off of the wall, which I guess is really the concern with stuff like this. If you don't install it correctly, it could just peel off at some point in time. But it seems okay. I think I did an okay job for having never done this before. I obviously had to deconstruct the shelf a little bit to remove the trim piece that they had on here. And then for some reason they have like a thin piece of plywood on the top of the shelf. I don't know what kind of nonsense that's covering up, but I also had to kind of start ripping some of that out so I could install the corner bead. But yeah, that doesn't even go into the fact that there's a hole in the wall over there off camera that you can't see. That happened when I was removing the chair railing, because apparently the chair railing runs behind this built-in shelf, which I didn't know until I was trying to rip it off the wall and ended up with a hole in the wall. Couldn't figure out why it wouldn't come off the wall. Before I lose my voice completely from talking too much, the last project, which is what I'm going to work on after I'm done recording this, is I am re-siliconing my shower. So re-siliconing showers or tubs is pretty normal. It's one of those things that after so many years it normally needs to be redone. My problem, on the other hand, is that it doesn't seem like it was done correctly in the first place. So I left this open for a reason, because I wanted to talk about this. So I think you can see on camera this corner piece that I have here that has the shelves. Love that. Don't know why every shower and tub doesn't have these things, because shelving in showers is something you always need. So I love these. They're great, not going anywhere. But they were like detaching from the wall, like fully detaching. This one was held on with a piece of tape. Like, are you kidding me? So my plan is I have one here and then one in this corner that you can't see. I am just going to fully detach this from the wall and re-stick it up, because it's so loose and the siliconing is so bad. I feel like it would be better off to just fully remove it and reinstall it. That way I know that it's well stuck and that it won't be going anywhere. So that's my plan for today, is to get both of these off of the wall and reinstalled with a fresh coat of silicone. And then obviously once they're stuck back up, I'll be siliconing the edges. And I also, while doing this, want to go ahead and re-silicone around the bottom edge as well. So this bottom edge here, where this meets the tub, because this is just like an insert that's in here. I don't have tiles, so this is just, I guess this would be plastic insert that's on the walls to waterproof everything. So yeah, I'm just gonna be doing that today, and hopefully that goes well. I've done a lot of caulking in the house, and siliconing is really the exact same thing, just with a different product. Some caulk is silicone caulked and can be used interchangeably, but I went ahead and got specific tub and tile silicone just so I knew that it would be 100% waterproof and was the correct thing for what I needed. Like I said, I've done a lot of caulking in the house because I've been redoing all the trim work. Caulking is also like actually super easy, and you can definitely get better at it the more that you do it, but it doesn't have like a very steep learning curve. Like, it's pretty easy to pick up how to caulk, and it doesn't cost very much. I think like a tube of this is about, I want to say $8. You would think I would know because I've bought in so many tubes of caulk at this point, but it's not that expensive. And a caulking gun, you can get a cheap one, which is what I have. So I have this one that I think was $5, and as far as I can tell, I don't understand what the difference is between like a nice caulking gun and a cheap one, because there really isn't anything to it. So I don't see why, like, it doesn't seem worth it to me to spend more money on a caulking gun, like when you can just get one for $5. So I just got the cheapest one they had, and yeah, it works perfectly fine. You can see I've obviously used it a lot. This tube of caulk is completely empty. I think I've gone through 3 of these while caulking trim in the house. Alright, I am officially out of water and my cat is whining at me to open the window, so I'm gonna wrap up here. Hopefully I can compose this into a sensical video that, you know, can actually follow in some sort of... Okay, that was the bathroom. Hopefully at some point I'll actually get this room done and it won't be just a complete disaster. But until then, this is my bathroom.